This is a UPSL Club Focus, FC Birmingham.
All right, hello and welcome to this week's ASMG podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us out of Birmingham, Alabama. It is the new head coach for FC Birmingham, Coach Preston Goldfarb. Coach, I want to welcome you to the show today. And how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you want to talk to me.
Great. Well, I'm glad to have you on here. It's a very interesting story you bring to us today. And of course, you're not a stranger to FC Birmingham. You're well known in the area there. You're well known within the game in general. And the list of your achievements is quite long. Over 40 years as a coach, involved in all sorts of aspects of the game. You've coached at Birmingham Southern College with the U.S. international team, numerous championships, tournaments that you've been in. And you've helped a lot of players get to the next level, including in Germany, Brazil, and other places. First of all, before we get into the job there at FC Birmingham, which you've come back to, can we get like a little background into your involvement in the game in general?
Absolutely. Thank you. I started, it's an interesting beginning. In 1972, I went to Germany with my brother. He is a doctor. He's retired like I am. I was retired. He's still retired. He was a known ENT and plastic surgeon here in Birmingham, but he's always raised German Shepherd dogs. So at that time I was fluent in German and he wasn't. So I went as interpreter and I wound up staying in the pubs and watching soccer on TV all the time. And so I fell in love with the game. In 1983, I got a call from the athletic director at Birmingham Southern asking me if I was interested in coaching their soccer team, which was a fledgling club team. They wanted to go intercollegiate athletics with it. And I said, I'm willing to sit down and talk. I don't know about all this. And so sure enough, I did it part-time. So I went to work at UAB Hospital at 5 a.m. and I left every day at 4 to go out there and coach. I did that for 6 years. And then I went full-time to Birmingham Southern. But we started the program. We didn't have a field. We didn't even have equipment to do anything. And so I raised the money to build a field. And I raised the money to put lights on it a few years after we built the field in 1987. And in 1991, I raised the money to get the lights. And from there, it was onward and upward with Birmingham Southern College. And I was there for 33 years. I retired at the end of the 2015 season, 2021, when Doug Walk contacted me about coaching this team. And I did. And then in the middle of that first season, I resigned. And now I'm back. For some reason, I guess he likes old people. So I don't.
He likes experienced people, good experienced people, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I'm back.
And that's quite a story because you went many different areas of the sporting world, all over the world, and then you got the call from Doug. How did Doug first come into knowledge of you, who you were, and how you could maybe help the team?
Really interesting story. I didn't remember Doug. Doug attended my soccer camps at Birmingham Southern, and Trey Fancher not only attended the camps, he played on my baby grasshopper team. We had the top team, and then I had a youth team under it, and Trey played for me on that youth team. And so they knew me from that. And when the Olympics happened, I was the one that got the Olympics to Birmingham. And in that, getting the field, getting the games here, we built a field in Fairfield, which was Doug's and Trey's hometown. And they built the Homer Hayes complex. And if it wasn't for me, that complex wouldn't be there, as Doug says it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But, I started working on my coaching licenses in Germany in 1985, and I got it in 1991. And I got mine in Brazil in 1989. And so, I've done my homework. I try to continue learning. After I got my license, I would go back to Germany every year, sometimes twice a year, to go train with different head coaches to get perspective on new things and what they were doing and keep my coaching license active. I could coach anywhere in Germany except the top two Bundesliga teams, leagues. Other than that, I could coach anywhere in Germany. And so I'm really proud of that accomplishment, because that was a tough, long haul to get. And finally, I did get it in 1991. And again, I had to speak German in the whole thing. So it's their country, and they're not going to speak English to me. That's for sure.
Let's move on a little bit to what attracted you back. I know you had said that you had spent half a season with FC Birmingham before. And, you know, as it turns out, you retired, so to speak, midway through the season. But now you're back. So
Right.
what's the story behind that?
Why am I back? It's a really good question. Why my son and my wife asked me, and my daughter, and they all asked me the same thing. Why are you doing this after everything that happened? You know, I always liked Doug a lot. I respected him for his vision on what he's trying to do, although we disagreed on what happened to me. You know, the past is the past. And so when they contacted me to meet on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, I said yes, and I'll sit down and listen and, you know, tell you my side of what I think we should do. I said, but what really drew me back when they contacted me was the fact that I watched the game against Atlanta, and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for myself because I had started the program for him that first season. I was embarrassed for the club, but more importantly, I was embarrassed for Doug because of all the hard work Doug had put in to developing his organization and his club structure. He's quite the visionary when it comes to trying to do something for the city. He, like me, is from Birmingham. I mean, I grew up here. I left twice to go to college and to go in the Army. So, you know, my background is discipline that came from the Army and the coaches I had while I was playing. And so I loved his vision. And when it takes a lot to make me embarrassed and to do something like go back when I know what happened in the past that caused the split. But I was embarrassed for him more than anything, and for our city, because that was not representative of the way this team can play. And I'm not trying to criticize the former coach or coaches. I'm not doing that at all. I'm just telling you what I saw.
Right.
And what I saw was an embarrassment to the game. It was an embarrassment to our city, but more importantly, for the hard work and the dedication that Doug has put into this club. It was a great embarrassment to him. So because of that, I could put aside what happened in that situation, because I didn't get support. And, you know, I didn't think I would ever do something like this. But I love challenges. The challenge of this is something I've never done. I've never stepped in to take over a team. And so the challenge of that was one of the reasons, but truthfully, the two main reasons was I missed the training field, and I was embarrassed for Doug Walk and his program.
Right.
That's the reason. That's the honest to goodness truth.
Well, I mean, that, you know, can be a motivating factor. I mean, there's a number of different things you mentioned there. Of course, the relationship you have, the business relationship you have with Doug, your work in the game, and wanting to come back and experience that teaching element and helping players get to the next level.
Correct.
So, but now that you're back, though, I'm sure there's the idea of what's the challenge, the biggest challenge you're going to have to overcome or endure to really get back to getting that team to where you said you need them to be, you know, where the city can be proud of them, where Doug can be proud of them. What do you think is the biggest challenge to that?
I told them at the onset on Tuesday when I met with the players that showed up, some were sick and for whatever reasons. I said, we may not win every game, but we're going to win as a team by playing winning soccer. And there's a difference between winning games and playing winning soccer. You don't have to win every game to play winning soccer. And we're going to do that. That was the first thing I told them. The second thing I told them is there's no discipline on this team, zero. And so we're going to have to rekindle the discipline that is important to any team, regardless of sport. If you don't have that, then it becomes chaotic. And to me, that's how the team appeared against Atlanta, very chaotic in the way they were trying to play, which they couldn't do. I kept waiting for them to get across midfield most of the time. And so I'm here to try and to rebuild what your vision was in the beginning. And,
right.
I hate to be the person to have to come in, but somebody's got to right this ship. And I guess he felt like I was the person to do it. So here I am.
You've been there before, you've made it happen. And I'm so glad you mentioned that about, in other words, whipping the guys into shape, into a certain type of shape. In my mind, is that professional shape. That's what I like about the UPSL, because you're having to take raw talent that are used to an amateur type of connection to the game and turn them into professional acting or behaving players. And that's
exactly
what's been, really difficult for some. Some can't do it. Some teams can't do it. And
right.
So, I think that Doug sees that quality in you, and that's why, they've asked you to come back. And like you said, it's a very good way of righting the ship. You got the talent, just need to get it together and organize. But let me just ask you this question related to what you just said. What is your opinion of the UPSL as a environment for developing soccer talent? Do you think it's a good environment for them?
I do. It reminds me a lot of the old USISL that Francisco Marcos started. And we got in really on the ground floor of that in 1993. And it reminds me a lot of that. It was a stepping, and the USISL is now the USL. And that's what happened to it. So I see a lot of the same similarities between the when I was doing it 93 to 96 to what it is now. I think the UPSL is a really growing league to help young players step into a situation unknown to them or their teammates, develop themselves as players and as a team to hopefully move up. I see the purpose of that as it's normally like a Division IV type of program. And the only thing and I write about it in my first book about the difference in soccer and the rest of the world in the United States. We don't have a promotion and relegation system. And until the United States, this is my opinion, until the United States gets to a promotion and relegation system, we will never be successful on a national level, other than the women were, because they were the first to get into that level, and other nations weren't playing with women's soccer. So they had a leg up in the beginning, and they were good athletes. And so, I hope at some point, I know that the UPSL plays a two different seasons. You have different champions for both. I would love to see the UPSL play one season. So you play a fall season, and then you have a winter break, and you come back and play a spring season with one championship in the end. That's what I would love to see. I think that's the first step towards a promotion and relegation system in our country. And I think that's how we're going to get better, because right now, let's take the highest level. Let's take MLS. How do the teams get better or the players get better if there's no penalty for how you play or how well you do or how poorly you do if you don't get relegated and the players, their contracts are set, whether they play or don't play, or they go up or down, they stay there. And so
no incentive,
and there's no pressure to get better. Pressure is really important. That you have to be pushed to get better, and there has to be a carrot at the end of the rope for you to grab onto, or the carrot turns inside out and you go down. I mean, so that's really it, and so and getting back to the last thing we were talking about, a ship, when I said riding the ship, a ship without a rudder, what does it do? It just goes in a circle. And so you put a rudder on it, and then you put it in the direction you want it to go. And that's what we're trying to do, to be honest with you. That's what I want to happen. And,
I agree with you 100% on subjects like promotion and relegation, changing the culture at a club where, a kid feels perfectly fine to say, oh, I just forgot some stuff. Just slot me into training now.
Right.
And
right.
He needs to understand there's circumstances to these things, because then he becomes more prepared, not only
Right.
for training, but for gameplay. And I'm with you. I think that I don't know the structure or if we will expand how we organize the seasons in the UPSL, but I do like the fact that there is a consequence to your performance. As I said before we started the interview, I'm a big Sunderland fan out of England. I experienced 2 relegations in a row, with them, and it caused a change in ownership, multiple changes in coaches, personnel. Now they have a footing, and they were just promoted to the championship in England. But that's after a lot of pain and suffering that comes from not wanting to be down that low. You fight and you scrap to do that, and that's what's missing in the United States.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, there has to be that there. So, I think that's, you being overseas and coaching and working in Israel, Germany, these different places, around the world, they have this system. Here we don't, but now we're developing. That's why I like the UPSL. Within the UPSL, there's promotion and relegation between the divisions, but really for the game to grow nationally, they're going to have to figure out a way to stretch that out between the different leagues. And so hopefully we can influence that by example. My wife used to tell me, become the change you want to see. And that's what we do here in the league. And so it'll be interesting to see how that develops with FC Birmingham now that you're back in. And just wanted to ask you one more question. I know I'm taking a lot of your time.
You're fine. Listen, I've got nothing else to do.
Except run a whole club, right?
Right.
But okay, so you got your first real regular season game coming up against Portros FC this weekend, I believe.
And I don't know anything about them.
Yeah. That goes back to the challenge of coming in now in the middle of the season, so to speak, and kind of getting up to speed, not only with the players under your control, but the opponents you're going to be playing. And so how has it been preparing this week? I'm sure it's been a whirlwind of activity. How's it been preparing for a team that you don't really know? You got players you don't quite know just yet. Are you going to kind of sit back and wait and see how they respond to things? Or are you going to give them a direction? And what's your coaching style going to be like, do you think, coming up on the weekend?
I told the team that if you expect me to scout a team that we're going to be playing and then base our training on the scouting report, you're in the wrong place. In my 40 plus years of coaching, now 50 years of coaching, I've never scouted a team in my life, ever.
That's interesting. Okay.
The only team I ever scout is my team. And I tell my teams over the years, if you do the things we ask you to do to 100% effort, then the other team you play the way we're supposed to play. The other team either has to play equal to you or better than you to either tie or beat you. I said, when you start at 100%, and no one can achieve perfection, but you can achieve the effort of perfection by giving 100%. And when you do that, if you're having not such a great day, the fall off is only roughly 20%. It puts you at 80%, and that's acceptable. But if you come out there starting at 80%, the fall off drops to 60%, and that's unacceptable. So I'm going to scout you and get you to play the best way we can win by doing the things we ask, and then everything will fall into place. I don't worry about the other team. And I won't adjust things at halftime for that. I'll adjust things based on our play. Because if we do the things we're taught, we're going to be very, very successful. Getting back to your question, it was difficult. It was difficult for them as players and difficult for me because it was sprung on them all of a sudden. I mean, on Tuesday, they're expecting one person there. And on Tuesday night, they see a bald-headed old guy come out there. And so, it's a learning curve for both of us. I have to learn the players because I didn't select them. And I have to play the hand I've dealt. And I got to play it in the best way possible in order to be successful. And I think we've got, like I said in the beginning, we have very good players. But getting them to play together is a whole different ball game, and we're going to do that, and we're going to start this weekend. So I'll watch like I've been watching in training, and I do my yelling in training, but then in the game I'm going to sit there and analyze where we're successful, where we're deficient, what we need to do to correct those things to be successful moving forward. I know it'll be a tough game. It's not going to be a walkover by any stretch of the imagination. Probably Portros probably thinks that we're going to be a walkover with the big change and all those things. And I think we'll be ready for them. I think the players have enjoyed training. I think they've enjoyed the way we do things. They're playing. There were days they told me where they went out on the field and they never touched the ball. It was all conditioning.
Oh, wow.
I said, what kind of conditioning y'all do? Because I saw you bending over, grabbing your knees during the game. I said, so I don't know what kind of conditioning you were doing. But in preseason, you do some conditioning without the ball, but it's very, very small amount. The rest of the time, the conditioning is with the ball because you play with the ball. And I told them we play possession soccer. The ball is round, so it rolls, which means it's on the ground, and it doesn't have wings on it, which means it doesn't fly. So keep the ball on the ground and let's play the game through possession the way it should be played. And you're going to be successful. Trust me, we will be successful.
Oh my God. I can't wait to see what you do with this team this season. I mean, I like your philosophy. I love the idea of going into the game where you dictate to the opponent. You don't let the opponent dictate to you.
Correct. Exactly.
And that is a great way to look at it, because then you can be intimidating to them. You don't have to worry about who's on their team or what kind of play. If you have the ball and you're controlling the ball, they can't do anything.
That's right. I keep telling them, I have a saying that I've used my whole career, and it's we are a peanut butter and jelly on white bread with a glass of milk team. We are not caviar and champagne. Translating means simple, not fancy. I want you to play simple because the game is simple. It's when you start trying to do all these dipsy doodle fancy moves to impress whoever, you'll be sitting next to me on the bench because I'm not going to tolerate stuff like that. I want to make it simple and play simple, and we'll be successful. I think we're going to be successful. I like the players. I like the team. I think it's going to be a fun rejuvenation for me. And I think the same for the team as well, if they buy in. There'll be some, I'm sure, that have been playing that may not be playing, that are not going to be happy. But, I'm not here to win friends and influence people. I'm here to win games and teach the game of soccer. That's all I care about.
There you go. Yeah, I'd rather see 11 guys come together as a team than 11 individuals playing, freestyle soccer.
Exactly.
Coach, on behalf of ASMG, we'd like to thank you for being a part of the discussion today. And we'll see you on the weekend.
I'm very honored that you called me. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care now.
This has been a UPSL Club Focus segment by ASMG.